What is up, guys? We are here at the Diadem headquarters and technology center here in Pompano Beach. I'm sitting down with Evan Specht, one of the Diadem co-founders. And today we're going to talk with you guys about the brand new Elevate V3 that was just released from Diadem this January. Evan, how we doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Good.
Good to be back
here.
in the pit.
Back in the interview pit. We're having great conversations about the Diadem product line, not just the Elevate, but throughout the course of this year, we'll talk about the rest of the product line. So let's get into it. All right, so we're going to kick it off today by starting with the Elevate line in general and the Elevate family of rackets. This Elevate line was the flagship racket for the Diadem brand. Before we talk specifically about the V3, can you give us a little bit of the history there and why the Elevate was created, who it was created for, and where we've gotten to at this point in time?
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, this was our flagship racket. This is the first line that we created, and the purpose of it was to create a player's frame, a control minded frame for the players that are looking to create their own power. So you'll find most players using the Elevate line are a little bit higher level players that have ultimate control over where they're hitting the ball. Obviously the sweet spot's beautiful. It's not going to be as forgiving as, say, our Nova line if you hit it outside of the sweet spot. But in general, with the different weight classes we have now, with the light, the mid, and the tour, you're looking for people with a little more linear swings, not as whippy. And what you're going to get is a racket and a frame that's going to have pinpoint accuracy. So whether it's a slice, a volley, or a ground stroke, you feel like you have ultimate control with this frame. And that's in part because of the 98 square inch head, in part because of the thinner square beam. We did utilize, and we have from the beginning, a 16 by 20 string pattern, which is pretty unique, although a few of the manufacturers have kind of followed suit. But with that 16 by 19, we get a nice even squared pattern throughout, so you're getting that real good consistency wherever you hit in the sweet spot. And then of course it's got that lower flex. So for in the light and the mid frames, you're going to have that 64 flex, and in the tour 67. So that's definitely a lower flex than most rackets on tour. So all those combined gives you that ultimate control racket in the Elevate line.
So ultimate control is every tennis player's dream. That's what most people look for on the court. I mean, of course, you've got power and spin and everything else, but if you can control where the ball's going, you're going to be a better player. So all three generations of the Elevate racket have brought in some really unique and different technology that isn't necessarily the norm in the tennis world. The featured technology with this V3 is this Craven material that we've incorporated into the racket. Can you talk with us a little bit more about what Craven is and why we decided to use that in the Elevate V3?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just to kind of tack onto your point too, like each version that we reintroduced with the V1, the FS, and now the V3, what we tried to do is add a technology that would continue to push this racket towards the ultimate control, ultimate feel racket. I mean, obviously the general layup and design of the racket is a control racket, but how do we continue to make it better each generation? So now with the V3, as you pointed out, the Craven technology is a really, really unique rubber material that we've deployed in the 3 and 9 o'clock position and in the throat of the V3. We still are utilizing the FS technology throughout the frame, so that's our rib technology with 2 types of foam. But when we added in the Craven, what it allowed us to do was to create this really dampening, smooth feel. And what's great is it doesn't sacrifice power at all. Usually when you go more dampen, more feel, more control, you lose power. But because of this unique rubber material that's actually added into the frame during the pre-preg process, so it's not like there's rubber inside somewhere in like the open cavities. It's actually inside of the layers of the mold as we're building the racket. So it'll be carbon fiber, Craven, and then the glue, basically the compound in there. So it allows us to kind of build this really ultra lightweight racket, which is what a racket is. You know, it's got to be within that certain weight, but still have this strong, dampened feel to it that doesn't sacrifice power.
So one of the things that I love about the Diadem product development process is that we're always pushing the limits with innovation. We oftentimes are doing things that aren't common in either the tennis or the pickleball industry, but we are using proven materials and proven technology that's used in other industries, in other spaces, in other types of products. So talk to us about this Craven material and maybe some of the other places that it's being used across the world.
Yeah, for sure. We're always looking in facets and markets outside of the tennis industry, which is a pretty small industry, and there's, you know, only so much R&D being done. So we like to look at, you know, golf, for example, or aerospace. And so we saw and identified this really unique Craven material that's made in Germany. It's a non-cross-linked rubber, which is a very, very thin film that can very lightweight and can be actually mixed, like as I mentioned, in the pre-preg process of the carbon fiber. So we've seen it in the aerospace and aeronautics community. We've actually heard that it's being used in NASCAR and some other really fast-moving, lightweight processes where you have to worry about impact, you have to worry about vibration. And so when you hit the ball, with this racket, you will notice there is a dampened feel due to the rubber within the mold. And so there's been studies shown that there's been up to 300% reduction on impact energy. So that's what we're doing on a tennis court. You're having that impact coming into the frame, and we're reducing that.
So when you're making impact with a tennis ball, you know, hundreds of thousands of times over the course of a year or over the course of your career, being able to minimize that amount of harmful impact, it's got to do something for not just your game as a player, but also the longevity of your game, which is something that I think, you know, here at Diadem we're very sensitive to. We want to create lifelong, lifetime tennis players, and putting people in equipment that allows them to do that. Before we go into some of the other technology, I do want to go over a quick spec check on the Elevate frame. I know there's a couple of variants of the Elevate frame. So give us the quick rundown on what players can expect as far as the specs go.
Yeah, so obviously you got a 98 square inch frame on a square thin beam. And then you have the light, the mid, and the tour. And so each of those are going to have their different variances in their weight, balance, swing weight, all that stuff. But the quick and dirty is the light is 290 grams, 10.2 ounces. The mid is 305 grams, and the tour is 315. And so you kind of bump up your swing weight with each one of those. You bump up your static weight, and the balance will typically stay pretty balanced and even throughout all those. And that's kind of what we've done with the Elevate frame.
So one of the common questions that we've been hearing from the players at home is, you know, what's the difference? So you've got this new Elevate V3 that people have been very excited about. Spec-wise, it's comparable to the previous generation, the Elevate FS. So Evan, what are some of the biggest differences that players are going to find from the FS racket that came out in 2020 to this Elevate V3 that's now here in 2023?
Well, one big difference is the color, obviously. It's beautiful blue, translucent, with metallic paint coming through. And of course, it's got that rubbery satin finish, so it feels great in your hand as you're preparing for the next shot. We also, some other small cosmetic things, we adjusted the bumper guard. So it's actually going to cover the edge a little bit more. We saw, of course, as you're playing and getting the low digs, you're scraping the top of the racket with the previous version. So we just extended that a little bit. What kind of a side effect that we anticipated and we wanted with that is you added a little bit of weight to that head. The overall weight, the overall balance hasn't changed, but because you got a little bit bigger bumper guard, the swing weight bumped up a little bit. So you can expect to have a little bit higher swing weight, a couple points, across each of the models. And then, of course, the Craven. And what that does is it just gives you that smoother, cleaner feel. It feels like the sweet spot's gotten a little bit bigger on those miss hits because you're not getting that vibration. What our play testers and ourselves have found actually is there's a slightly bit more power. I wouldn't promote and say this is a more powerful racket than the previous version, but you're definitely not sacrificing it. And while you're getting that more comfortable feel, you're not losing anything in power. And most people kind of have mentioned they feel it's a little bit more pop. So in general, you're getting that same comfortable playing experience, just heightened across the board.
Okay, so you can expect your typical player that looks for this style of racket, the control-oriented player's frame, to be able to have a very smooth transition from the FS racket or any other player's frame on the market into this V3 without a major shock or a major adjustment period, but you do expect to see some improvements across the board.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So who is this racket for? I mean, and walk us through the Light, the Elevate, and then the Elevate Tour. In your mind, if you were to design this racket for a particular type of player, who would that player be?
Well, you know, the mid, we can start there. That's the main frame, the 305 gram. I mean, that is for a player that is playing primarily off the baseline, maybe chipping, coming in when they have the advantage. They like to develop the point, though, from the baseline. And then they're using the pinpoint accuracy of the Elevate to develop that point. They are creating their own power, especially in the 305. It would not be considered a powerful racket. And so they're having to create that, and they want to create that. They have plenty of power. I think when you bump up to the Tour version, that's probably going to be a much higher level player, someone that can wield 315 gram unstrung and a swing weight up near 295. So they're definitely going to be a college level, top junior. Even a lot of our pros, mid-level pro guys are using that frame and maybe even adjusting it to a heavier weight as well. Because of course it's a great racket for customization. But again, the ultimate player for this racket is somebody who likes to create their own power, somebody who's dictating from the baseline, working their way into the net. It's great for touch on volleys. It's great for slice, but they definitely are going to feel comfort from that control and pinpoint accuracy.
All right, so taking a step back, away from all of the geeky, nerdy tennis specs and technology that we love here at Diadem, let's talk about something very surface level. Let's talk about the looks and the cosmetics of this racket. So we've got a ton of you at home that have commented, this racket looks different. This racket looks great. This racket looks beautiful, but it is very different from the prior FS version of the Elevate that incorporated more of the teals and the bold colorways of the past.
Sure.
Can you talk to us about the decision making that went into just the look and cosmetics of this V3?
Well, just like with the teal racket that we had in the previous versions, we want to make sure that this racket stands out, that it's something that you can see from a few courts down, and then of course something you're proud to play with. So what we kind of did was redesign the look of the racket, and as you mentioned, going away from the teal and kind of getting into a beautiful shades of blue. And you know, we didn't want it to just be painting some blue on there, so we wanted to try to have some nice transitions in different colors, but also having some unique kind of sparkle coming through. So it has actually a metallic paint as a base with a translucent paint on top. And so the different blues are actually translucent, and maybe we can roll some beautiful footage right now and show how it looks really up close, because it is really unique how like there's a metallic coming through. And so you see these different shades, and as well, we went just full blue with the grommets being blue as well. So typically they're black, but we wanted to really highlight this unique color. And then of course we have, you know, just simple tones of white and some chrome in there. But the other key feature is what I mentioned earlier, that rubbery satin paint that is the finish. So it's not a matte or a shine, but it's actually like a satin feel, and it's something that you really notice when you hold it.
And guys, I'll be the first to admit I'm biased. I'm somebody that you know, loves the look and the design of this racket, and we spent a lot of time working on this racket, but I got to tell you, the photos don't do it justice. You've got to see some of the detail that went into just the look of this racket in general. And look, if you want to just check it out and you don't want to buy it, you want to just see what it looks like, put your hands on it and hit a couple balls, we've got a great demo program for you guys. You can check that out on our website, and be sure you take an opportunity to try it out. Moving away from the Elevate V3 and just talking Diadem as a whole, we're here in the Technology Center. It's in Pompano Beach, Florida. It's also our global headquarters for the brand. Evan, can you talk to us a little bit about what happens here at the Technology Center, what we are doing with rackets outside of just the stock production of these frames?
Yeah, so one of the great experiences you can have in getting a custom fitted tennis racket is to come here to the Technology Center, let Dustin get you on court, get you in 3D nodes, and put you through a series of different weighted and balanced rackets where we take our base frames and we customize them to different weights, different balances, different swing weights, and we really hone in on what is best for your game. So that's been a real pride for us, is to make great base frames, great stock models that people can pick up off the shelf and use right away without issue, of course. But everybody has a little bit different requirements, a little different key features that they're looking for, whether it's the swing weight or the balance that will fit their swing. Everybody's different. So what we like to do is to make sure that we give them the opportunity to try kind of a wide range of that. So we can take our base frames from the light, the mid, and the tour in both the Nova or the Elevate and tweak them a bit. And what we always have here too when you come by are prototypes for that next generation. So, sneak peek, there's going to be Nova V3s hanging around. There's going to be a new racket we're working on hanging around. So you might get a chance to try that. We've also done some cool things with customizing our rackets to match swing weights and balances and weights of pro players. So you could try Nadal's weights and balances and see how that compares to what maybe you're using at home.
And if you guys haven't already, make sure you stop by and see us so you can check out all of those things that Evan was talking about here in the Technology Center. If you want to make a trip to South Florida, we'd love to see you. Pop in, say hello. And for those of you that made it to this point in the video, I wanted to do something a little bit special for the viewers that stuck with us for the long haul. So, Evan, let's give the people at home just a little taste of what's to come from Diadem. What can people expect? And you hinted to it a little bit already, but what should the tennis player at home expect from Diadem over the next 12 months, 24 months, and going into the future?
Yeah, well, they are going to be expecting, and they're going to get a chance to take a look at the new Nova. We've been working on that for as long as we've been working on the Elevate. And so we're really excited as we're moving through the different parts of development to kind of fine tune and make that Nova that next generation. And then a really exciting thing that we've been working on as well is a third racket in our line. So obviously we have our control-based Elevate and we have our power-based Nova. And so we're going to get that ultimate mix of the two, focusing on spin, power, and control. And so we're really excited to launch that in the near future. No date yet on when that's launching or anything specific about it, but we've been prototyping, developing, working with different space age materials and of course different molds. So that's very exciting. And one thing that you'll also get to see here by the summer is a special colorway of some of our popular strings to match the Elevate. So you won't have to clash with some of our strings and putting it in the Elevate, but you're going to be able to utilize those beautiful blues and match the racket from top to bottom.
You heard it here first, guys. Make sure you don't share that with your friends. Don't share that on social media. Don't share that with anybody. Keep that between you at home and the team here at Diadem. We appreciate you guys sticking with us and tuning in to learn more about the Elevate V3. And if you have more questions, you shoot us an email. We're happy to chat. Thanks again and talk to you soon.
Thanks.